So I've been doing a lot of videos lately on reading and books that became movies and why it's good to read, what it does for your mental health, and what it does for brain development for kids, really. It's kind of an interesting subject matter, but I wanted to kind of put it in reference to this book. I've been rereading Red Storm Rising, old Tom Clancy book from the 80s. That was actually it's one of his better books. It really is. Uh, it is not exactly just Jack Ryan. It's much bigger scale kind of conflict between the Americans and the Russians, or NATO and the Russians. But the thing about it that I find interesting is a lot of times we don't understand why people don't under think a certain way or why they don't have a certain piece of intuitive understanding in their head. Whereas maybe in the past, more people had that, a larger percentage population. I hate to sound like, oh, kids these days, right? But let's face it, kids these days do face challenges that weren't faced when I was a kid. Certainly, social media plays part of that role. Certainly, just general media plays part of that role. Just the way we consume information has changed, in general. But it we used to read a lot more than we do, and there's all kinds of numbers behind that. But in the book, one of the things I found interesting was that you really can see where one person can start to make a difference in a much larger scale and problem. So it's about this fictional war in between, the two sides of the Cold War. And it actually has everything from the giant strategic side way up at the let's make the plan level and all the way down to the tactical side where one person figures something out and runs it up the chain of command. And the thing it hit me, I'm about 25% of the way through, is I forgot how masterful they were at uh, showing that, hey, one person did something and he told this person and it went up the chain of command, and that changed the entire course of what was going to happen from a larger tactical sense in between the two militaries. And let's say just in a military sense, because yes, I am an Army veteran and I get that part very well. But I'm also a scientist and I've worked on very large engineering projects and very large scientific endeavors and things that, on projects that some of the derivatives are in space, so and hundreds of people work on some of these things, but one person really can make a difference. And one of the things I hear my kids say, and I said it when I was younger, was how does one person really make any difference at all? Who gives a shit about one person? Unless you're famous, unless you're rich, unless you're this, unless you're this. 27 excuses, right? But it really does show how just one regular average person can do one thing and do it right and kind of push it and stick by their guns and do what they're supposed to do and make a huge difference. So anything from when you read, your brain gets excited in different ways, and people, and this has been shown in psychological studies, do anything from learn empathy to learn um, ways to interact with people better, to increase vocabulary, to all kinds of stuff. In this particular case, it helps you kind of see that one person can make a big difference in make a difference in a much larger scale thing. So highly recommend the book, highly recommend reading of any kind. Whether it's one of my fiction books or somebody else's, just pick one up. If you need a recommendation in a particular genre, it's what I kind of have done my entire life, is just sort of avid reading. I could probably push you towards a writer someplace. I'm up to date on a lot of the newer writers as well as the indie crowd. So you need a recommendation, let me know. Everybody have a great day.